The hum of the engine was the only constant in the vast inky blackness that had swallowed the highway whole. It was well past midnight, and the last gas station I'd seen was an hour behind me, a lonely beacon of fluorescent light in a sea of rural dark. My eyes, gritty from the long haul, scanned the endless ribbon of asphalt illuminated by my headlights. Just me, the road, and the occasional distant glint of an animal's eyes reflecting back from the roadside. I like these drives, usually. The solitude, the quiet introspection, the feeling of being untethered from the world. Tonight, though, something felt off. It started subtly, a flicker on the dashboard, the digital clock briefly displaying 3:33 before snapping back to 1:47 a.m. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Just fatigue, I told myself, a trick of the light. But then the GPS, usually a calm, reassuring voice, began to stutter. Turn left. Now? There was no left. Just dense forest on either side, the trees looming like silent skeletal sentinels. I ignored it, pressing on, but the voice persisted, growing more insistent, more distorted, until it sounded less like a navigation system and more like a desperate, choked whisper. I slammed my palm against the screen and it mercifully went dark. The silence that followed was heavier, punctuated only by the rhythmic thud of my tires. I glanced at the rearview mirror, a habit born of paranoia on empty roads. Nothing, just the receding darkness. But then, a flash, a figure, impossibly tall and thin, standing at the very edge of the tree line, just beyond the reach of my high beams. It was too quick to be real, a mere shadow playing tricks on my tired mind. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, then reopened them, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Gone. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tried to dismiss it, to rationalize. A deer, a trick of the light. But the air in the car had grown cold, a damp, earthy chill that seeped into my bones despite the heater blasting. The trees outside seemed to press in closer, their branches clawing at the sky. I accelerated, desperate to outrun the growing unease, to find the next town, any sign of life. Then the road changed. It wasn't a sudden jolt, but a gradual, insidious shift. The smooth asphalt gave way to cracked, uneven pavement, then to gravel, and finally to a dirt track barely wide enough for my car. My tires crunched over loose stones, sending plumes of dust into the night. Panic began to claw at my throat. I hadn't taken any turns. I hadn't seen any signs for a detour. This was the same road, wasn't it? But it felt wrong. The trees were different now, older, gnarled. Their branches, interwoven overhead, formed the skeletal canopy that blocked out the stars. I tried to turn back, but the car wouldn't respond. The steering wheel was locked, the brakes useless. I pumped the pedal, yanked the wheel, but the vehicle continued its slow, deliberate crawl deeper into the woods, as if guided by an unseen hand. The engine, which had been a comforting drone, now whined, a high-pitched, desperate sound that mirrored the terror building inside me. Through the gaps in the trees, I saw it again. The figure. It wasn't standing still this time. It was moving, paralleling my car, gliding effortlessly through the dense undergrowth. It was too dark to make out details, but its height was unnatural, its gait fluid and silent. I pressed my face against the window, trying to get a better look, but it was always just beyond my clear vision, a peripheral nightmare. Then, a whisper. Not from the GPS, not from the car, but from everywhere. It was a dry, rustling sound, like dead leaves skittering across pavement, or brittle bones rubbing together. It seemed to emanate from the trees, from the very air itself. It wasn't words, not exactly, but a cacophony of soft, sibilant sounds that spoke of ancient things, of forgotten paths, of hunger. The dirt track ended abruptly in a small, overgrown clearing. In the center stood a structure, barely discernible in the faint moonlight filtering through the branches. It looked like an old, abandoned cabin, but it was too tall, too narrow, its windows like vacant, staring eyes. Moss and vines clung to its decaying timber, giving it the appearance of something that had grown out of the earth itself rather than being built by human hands. My car shuddered to a halt, the engine dying with a final mournful sigh. The silence returned, absolute and suffocating. The cold intensified, and I could see my breath fogging in the air. I fumbled for my phone, but there was no signal. Of course there wasn't. Then, a tap. It came from the driver's side window. A gentle, almost hesitant tap. My head snapped around. Standing just inches from the glass, its face pressed against the pane, was the figure. It wasn't tall and thin. It was emaciated. Its skin was stretched taut over bone, a sickly pale gray, almost translucent. Its eyes were vast, black hollows reflecting nothing but the oppressive darkness of the forest. Its mouth was a wide, lipless slit, and from it a single long, black tongue slowly uncurled, pressing against the glass. It wasn't human. It was something that had been starved for centuries, something that had been waiting. The whisper returned, louder now, coming from the figure, though its mouth didn't move. It was the sound of 1,000 parched voices, all speaking the same thing. All saying the same thing. Welcome. I screamed, a raw, animal sound ripped from my throat. My hand instinctively went for the door handle, but it was locked. All the doors were locked. The windows wouldn't budge. I was trapped. The figure didn't move, didn't react to my terror. It simply stared, its black eyes absorbing every ounce of light, every flicker of hope. The long black tongue slowly retracted, and then with an agonizing slowness, a single, skeletal finger, tipped with a long yellowed nail, began to trace a pattern on the condensation on the window. A symbol. One I didn't recognize, but one that filled me with an ancient, primal dread. Just as the last line of the symbol was drawn, the figure leaned back, its head tilting at an impossible angle. And then, it smiled. A wide, horrifying grin that stretched its lipless mouth from ear to ear, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. The world went black. I woke up, slumped over the steering wheel, the morning sun streaming through the windshield. My car was parked on the shoulder of the main highway, exactly where I should have been. The engine was running, the radio playing a cheerful pop song. The GPS was working perfectly, showing my current location. There was no dirt track, no granuled trees, no decaying cabin. My hands trembled as I gripped the wheel. My throat was raw. I checked the clock. 5:30 a.m. I had somehow lost 3 hours. I drove the rest of the way home in a daze, the cheerful sunlight doing little to dispel the lingering chill in my bones. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I stumbled out of my car, my legs weak. As I walked towards my front door, I glanced back at my car, and on the driver's side window, etched in the grime, was a faint, almost invisible symbol, the same one the figure had drawn, and underneath it, a single dark smear, like dried blood, or something far worse. I haven't driven at night since, and every time I see a long empty stretch of highway, I wonder if the road remembers me, and if it's waiting for me to get lost again.